Why are you sacrificing with bases?
I'm gonna kill this one.
My erectile is not dysfunctional.
Let's use our president, for example.
You're over 10,000 kilometers away from South Africa.
Conspiracy theorists. I can open the door for you to join the Illuminati.
Good evening, everyone.
NippyCast.
Hey, how's it? NippyCast episode 33. This is the Cape Town edition, which is more or less a special edition. I decided I was going to Cape Town, and then I was like, okay, we were actually initially there for a friend's wedding, but I was like, okay, since I was a child, I think it was in the 90s, I've been wanting to go to Cape Town simply because at my primary school, my old man didn't pay the trip fee for Cape Town. And then when they got back, they were telling us stories. I remember the one fascinating story was the one of Robben Island. So I was like, okay, since I'm going to Cape Town, there's no way I'm going to waste this trip. I might as well also do a podcast for it. Well, we're going to call it NippyCast episode 33, the Cape Town edition / Robben Island. So basically right now, I'm just going to be talking through what we did. It was a lot of things. We left here, it was Wednesday evening. We were driving. Never try to drive to Cape Town again. The longest drive ever, most tiring by far, So, I mean, we went past, taking pictures, whatever, view, whatnot. All the mother of all nice views there and whatnot. We went through wineries and all those things. So finally we arrived the next day, Thursday afternoon around 4ish. So this was almost 16 to 18 hours of driving non-stop. Okay, I think we stopped for like breakfast at some town. I forgot the name of the town. There's always those small dorpies. And then, so now we arrived, I think at Cape Town, we landed at a place called Table View. Then that's where we did our first check-in. It was the cool part of the beach of the Cape Town, apparently, called Table View. And then, obviously, like any other guy who arrives in any town, you'll want to understand what's going on tonight. I mean, it was Thursday of Youth Day, June 16. So we're like, okay, what do we do? Somebody said there's a club. We're like, what club? There's a street with clubs. So like, which street? Long Street. I'm like, yeah, I've been hearing about Long Street. Let's go to Long Street. Yeah, somebody's like, yeah, there's a shop there called Ayepi. I'm like, I know Ayepi. Yeah, let's go. The Cape Town one. Yeah, I've seen it somewhere on social media. Then we checked it out. Obviously, you know what happens in Ayepi happens in Ayepi. So now, the next day, what I decided to do, because the wedding was on Saturday, right? I was like, okay, let's start with this expedition or excursion or whatever you call it, trip or whatever, whatever name you're gonna call it. So I told myself that I think on Friday I should just go visit Robben Island for obvious reasons. Then I didn't know the timelines of the boat, so there was 3 timelines. There was 11. There was 1. I'm lying. There was 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock being the last boat. Guess what? I got there at 1:15. I was literally 15 minutes late, but it was too late even if I got there at 1, because I should have booked 30 minutes in advance, which is like 12:30. So then I got the timelines. I was like, okay, fuck it. We missed the Robben Island boat. Now what do we do? We're at waterfront now. Nothing to do. And somebody told us that we can catch another boat that might take us slightly close to a spot where you can see where Robben Island is, and it will just do some round trip around the harbor and see the boats and all those funny things. So which is gonna be in the clip that I'm going to show you now. There's one thing that I picked up that was more like a show of engineering in that town. They like showing off the engineering. That town is so well done. They say there's actually a tunnel that stretches for the longest time. It's a city, not town. That whole city, the design of engineering is just a show off. So there's a bridge that moves for the boats, for the ferries, whatever on the harbor. So I was before we started our boat ride for Friday after missing the Robben Island boat. I was nervous, so I wanted to go to the loo. As I was trying to cross the bridge, I didn't find the bridge there. But the bridge, I saw it earlier on. Then I went back. I'm like, guys, wasn't there a bridge here? They're like, no, it's here, but it's just on the side now. I'm like, so it moved? They're like, yeah, the bridge moves. I'm like, oh, it moves to open the way for the boat for the other boats and whatever, and yachts and all those whatever you call them, ship, if you want to say that. Whatever name, but it's something that is floating in the water that transports things. So it opens, and then I was so fascinated. Then I went back and I took some video there. I'm gonna show it's the next video that you're gonna see now. We are at Capetown waterfront. We're here to book Robben Island's tickets to visit. It looks like we came a bit late, but I think we'll cover it tomorrow. The plan was to do a podcast from there, but it's fine. So now the funny part is we're about to go on a boat ride over down here. I'm with my friends there, Vala, Dovi, and DV. So now I got a 6'9" and I quickly wanted to go to the loo. Earlier on, this bridge was not where it is, so this bridge moves, I think. So it was such a mind fuck. Okay, I'm not gonna wait for the bridge to go back. I was not ready for it. Eva Val, ela bro ya move ati? Ndiku Mangalore ndiku nyekwa toilet ndo uskanda wanositana bro. So I'm telling people, guys, it was such a mind fuck. This thing moves how? I'm like, wait, am I lost? It was funny. So Chiburusan story, eh?
Little slide down, little develop.
Oh, okay. It's moving. It's going to close over there.
The bridge will be open for pedestrians now. For your safety, please keep away from the gates until the bridge is fully operational. Please keep left when crossing the bridge. Thank you for your patience and enjoy the rest of your DNA experience.
But now it's too late for me to go there. Let's go back. So we're going to our boat now. The Roponderera 6'9" is fun. It's on. Your headliner is who, Chief?
Tabe.
So he's gonna take us back memory lane. This is a good 25 years.
Yeah.
It's gonna be epic. So it's possible that somebody who made that party was being born the time that Tabe did his first song. And then you are turning how old?
40. Fourth floor.
Booking Tabe just gave away your age.
That building is the Silo Hotel. It's one of the best hotels in Capetown waterfront with 5 stars. They charge per room per night.
How much?
The price is about 100. It's about 15,000 rand. That is the lowest price per room per night. Yeah. And the highest price is about 150,000 rand
Per night.
a room per night.
That's what I'm proposing.
Does it come with a car? So after that boat ride, we called it a day, but we decided to go do the sunset view, which is by Camps Bay now. Then we did that, which would be the video you're gonna see now. So these guys who stay are not scared of tsunami, like they. Yeah, I am awesome. Then after this, we hung out, bumped into some friends. We hung out at a shop called Chinchilla, right by the Camps Bay. Awesome shops. They've got good shops there. Yo, the shops are so on the money, proper. You know. So after Chinchilla, we called it a day. Slept, getting ready for the wedding. In the morning, we all traveled to a township called Kailicha, where our friend Sean was getting married. That's where I bumped into this other boy, a funny boy, a vendor boy called Mancha Friday. He promised us that he's going to visit us this Saturday at Vala's birthday party. I don't know if he's going to drive or fly, which is the video you're going to see now. Chief, idanipindura mbuziso nti ini ngoda patini ya omuna ngasorede nomuramba
nende twendo rambe ngori ndava ndisiyo manda aho
manda mangapani
nendina manda manjinga manda
shacho
oko kuse kwadura zvino
ribanira mgai nurumena invoice kawo And then, by the way, the night of Chinchilla, I met a DJ guy who plays at a shop called La Prada. He said I can come and join him on Saturday night after the wedding. So I went there to play. It was a good set, but we closed early. This is the video you're going to see now as we're closing the shop.
We need more of this shit, bruh. You're a superstar. Thank you, bro. Thank you for dancing.
After the wedding, everybody was tired, so I was like, oh, let me do this on my own anyway. The guys I was with have already done this trip to Robben Island, so for me, I was probably the only guy that hasn't done it. So I was like, let me go check it out. So woke up, took a cab to the waterfront. There's a link I did for that, which you will see just now. But before that, the shop I'm sitting at is a franchise of the shop I was playing at the night before. It's called La Prada. It's they've got a bunch of those shops in the Cape, and I want to play there all the time when I'm that side because they've let me play before. So I wanted to forge a relationship in terms of that franchise. It's a nice shop. It's one of those shops that you want to play at if you're a DJ and you're at Cape Town type of vibe. And I hung on the thing in front of the shop, and I did some drumming with the marimba team. Marimba drum band, whatever that you call it, in front of the thing, waterfront, which is the video you're about to see now. Hey, how's it, guys? Welcome back to NippyCast, the Cape Town edition. Yo, it's been a long one. Around about now, I'm chilling at a shop called La Prada. It's one of the franchises that I was playing at last night, if you were watching. And then I'm sitting in front of a band playing. It's like a marimba band. On the money for days. All the money for days. Yo, Right about now, we're about to go into Robben Island. The reason why I want to go there is to understand how they were torturing us as black people. It's very important to know this piece of history that made us to be where we are now. So for the next 2 hours, I will be going into a boat. I'll be at Robben Island. This one is not a trip; it's an excursion. This is a special edition of a podcast. So, what else am I forgetting? Yeah, fatigue. So that's it basically. Robben Island is the next step. Sharp. Then getting into the yacht or the boat to the Robben Island. The one thing that I've realized all the years that people would be telling you about the trip to Robben Island and whatnot, there's one point that they don't mention. The waves in the ocean, because it's a stretch. It's like a good 20-minute ride between the waterfront and the island. People were sick in that boat. A DA must fix the potholes in the ocean. Yeah. When the waves are just a bit heavy, we were calling them potholes in the ocean. At some stage I was saying, hey DA, go fix the potholes in the ocean. It was a bumpy ride actually. The bumpy ride that you say with an aeroplane is the same as that boat it was. But it's a nice yacht. The name of the yacht is what? I'll show you the name just now. And then we arrived there. So we get off the boat. Some people were sick, so we had to make a queue for people to take tablets for nauseousness because of the ocean, the boat, and I was also not okay. Because I remember when I was trying to shoot the first link as we walk in, I messed up the calculation. The calculation that I was supposed to do there was Mandela's prison number, which is 46664. So the number literally means that Mandela was prisoner number 466 of the year 1964, even though it was 2 years after the island, the prison was started. So let's actually debunk this theory of the 666 being Illuminati. No, then the 466 is prisoner number 466 of the year 1964. 46664. Let's get that shit out of the way, right? This is the video that you're about to see now, which I messed up the calculation. I was still a bit disoriented. This what was the term? I was still perplexed from the boat, man. You know the term I'm looking for, which is the video I'm about to see now. This is the group of the first prisoners. The year was 1962. And there's something that people don't understand about 46662. That number came because it was Mandela's prison number. What is it? 466, whatever. I'll check the exact number. But the 62 at the end is prisoner number 466 of the year 1962. That's the explanation of the number. I might be getting it wrong because I just got off the boat. I'm a bit not. My brain is, hey, that boat was traumatic. Then we got into a bus. Now we met the guy, the Mandela who was a chef there, he was a prisoner. I think in the late 70s until he was released in the early 90s, when everybody was released eventually. So the next video that you're about to see now is him narrating the story across board. In between, I'm also talking. I'm asking him questions, because there's urban legends we heard about Robben Island, like somebody jumped in and swam out and escaped. I'm like, theoretically or practically, it's impossible to jump out there and swim there. But unless if you're a professional swimmer, like a Penny Haynes type of vibe, you can try to crack it. And I think some people have done those, but they were well protected. I mean, it was well studied. They made sure that the temperature is okay. They trained for it. I'm sure they were being monitored, just similar like when you do your comrade marathon, when you do breaks and whatnot, and somebody jumps back, and you know what, one of those. But you can only do it under supervision. But as a prisoner who has never swum for a living, okay, who has probably swum at a dam or in a pool, there's no way you can swim from Robben Island all the way to the thing to the shore on the other side. So we debunked that one. The guy told us that nobody swam, but you'll see it in the video now. It's gonna be quite a long one and emotional. So we go in here. It's gonna start on where the guys used to hang, where they used to play football, where they used to do, what was this one is a tennis court where I don't know if they were playing tennis there, but it's called a tennis court, where Mandela used to plant his grapes and all those. And then it also goes as far as all the other cells of everyone else. There's names there, you'll see the names. Some of the names you probably don't even know, because there was a lot of prisoners. There's a lot of political prisoners that you don't know. Obviously, you guys, you think it was just Nelson Mandela. There was a lot of them. Imagine if I'm saying 466, it's 466 in 1964. And even after 1964, there was also other people being arrested there. There was a whole lot of activities. So you're about to see the part where they're going to tell you about not only prisoners of politics were put there. There was also people who were suffering from things like epilepsy, which was perceived as a demonic illness at that time. So they would want to ferry them to the island so that they don't possess other people on land. It was the belief at that time. It was just maybe Inchivenda will call it Chifa Kore, but they will just take you to the island because they think you are possessed with demons. So there's graves there. There's a whole lot of things. After this, this old man who was there tells us all the stories. I'll be talking to him here and there. You'll hear me talking at the background. We'll just be going around. This is going to be a bit longer, but bear with me, which is the video you're about to see now. A friend of mine has been here before. One of you have he has warned me about something that's about to happen. The reason why I spoke about not getting angry and whatnot is because apparently I might get angry at some of the things I'm about to see here. They'll be showing us how they were torturing our people and shit, you know. So, well, I don't think I'll get angry. We already know what happened, so I think I'll get angry, you know. I don't need a tourist guide to tell me that this is where they used to play soccer. Fuck. Let's just keep it on these things.
This was the hospital?
No, the hospital is just behind.
And this section is...
This is F section.
F section, okay.
Through that door, there was our toilets and showers, and also used as a study room by those prisoners who were privileged to study here in this prison. After switch off time at 10 at night, all those who were privileged to study will be going in there, continue with their studies up until the early hours of the morning. And in this prison, it was only male prisoners, that is coloureds, Indians, and African males. The white prisoners were imprisoned in Pretoria Central in Capetown Province, and the women in Kroonstad Prison in the Free State. So between 1962 up until 1979, there were no beds in the whole of this prison. Only those beds were given to each prisoner to sleep on, with 4 blankets, no pillows, no sheets. And in the morning, you will be expected to roll those beds separately, put them against the wall, put your blankets on top. And during that time, no prisoner was allowed to have a nap during the day. If you are found having a nap during the day, then you will be escorted to C-section for that 7 or 14 days. Just to check it. Were only introduced in this prison after the visit from the International Red Cross and from the late Dr. Alan Susman, who was the leader of the Progressive Federal Party in Parliament. In fact, they were the ones that pressurized the Commissioner of Prisons and the Minister of Justice to introduce those beds because many prisoners at that time were suffering from tuberculosis. And this is the diet scale that was used by the authorities between 1962 up until 1980. It was divided along the color lines. In B group, it was for the coloureds and Indians. And in C group, it was for the Africans who were called Bantus at that time. Like at breakfast, the coloureds and Indians will have their mini-meal. That will be 6 ounces per person. And mini-meal was served at breakfast and supper for the Africans. That is 6 ounces at breakfast and 6 ounces at supper per person. Bread was only served for the coloureds and Indians. It will be 4 ounces at lunch and 4 ounces at supper per person. At lunchtime, the Africans were given puzamanda. Puzamanda is a powdery thing. You just add water, you mix it, and it's ready for consumption. But it tastes very, very bad. And when the coloureds and Indians were having meal rice or sand, the Africans will be given mealies. On middays, it was 6 ounces for the coloureds and Indians and 5 ounces for the Africans. And when the coloureds and Indians were having jam or syrup, it will be 1 ounce per person daily. No jam, no syrup for the Africans. Coffee was served at breakfast and supper for the coloureds and Indians. And coffee was only served at breakfast for the Africans. And this one is the original prison card of a billionaire. Up there, that was his prison number. His number was 69/64. That simply means he was the 69th prisoner to come in here in 1964. Your name, the crime that he committed was sabotage, and he was sentenced to 20 years here on the island. In fact, as political prisoners, we never enjoyed the privileges that were enjoyed by common law prisoners, like their parole, remission, and all those things. As a political prisoner, if you are sentenced to 20 years, you serve the whole 20 years it is. No parole, no remission, nothing. And he was an A group. In fact, all prisoners in this prison were divided into 4 groups of prisoners with different privileges. Like the A groups were the only group that was allowed a contact visit with their visitors. So they were allowed to write 5 letters, receive 5 with 5 visits per month. And this card was like an identity document during the apartheid government. During the apartheid era, as a black person, if you don't have your identity document with you, you'll be arrested by police and you can be sentenced to 3 months or more. In this prison, if you don't have this card with you going to the hospital or to one of those offices, any prison warder can ask for a prison card. And when you tell them stories about your card, left in your cupboard in your cell, then you'll be in C-section for that 7 or 14 days. Yeah, let's move around now to A section.
For sabotage, 20 years.
Sabotage. That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Hey. 20 years for sabotage. $20 for sabotage, Chief. Yeah. It's a show. And I bet the sabotage is probably just created to say it is it's a case. Racism. With the clothes. I don't know what this is. I'll research it upon broadcast. Yeah, I think so. Is it this way? Yeah, it should be this way, yeah. Is this way? Yeah, should be.
When were you there? I came down here in January 1986 until 1991 in April 20. Because we were released from all political prisoners.
You were on one of those boats?
Yeah, but we were released just 7 days before the last group.
What was your crime?
I didn't commit any crime. My so-called crime was to fight for the freedom of our people. That was not a crime at all, because apartheid was said to be a crime against humanity. So fighting apartheid, it was not a crime.
And
even a sabotage.
No. What kind of sabotage? I mean, it doesn't make sense to get 20 years for sabotage.
We planted bombs all over the Gauteng province.
Oh.
That's sabotage what we talked about.
And then I've heard of somebody who tried to escape by swimming. Is it true that somebody swam out?
No, not in our lifetime.
So no, but people try to jump and try.
You won't make it.
You wouldn't make it, right?
The water out there, it's freezing.
We're inside on this one. Nobody can swim all the way. How many kilometers back to the shore?
The shortest way is to go that way. That is plus minus 9 km.
Yeah, there's no way you can swim. Okay, sure.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this section behind me, it's a D section. This is where the Namibian prisoners were staying up until 1985, when they were all transferred back to Namibia. Around the corner, it's E section. That building with 2 chimneys, that was our kitchen. And I also worked in that kitchen for 3 years. And that kitchen was our headquarters around here. Everything that happened in this prison happened through that kitchen. Like our political documents and our discussion papers were distributed to different sections around here through that kitchen. In fact, what happened during our time as the 3rd generation of prisoners here on the island, every day at lunchtime, we're eating bread and soup. So between the slices of bread, there will be a lot of documents to different sections around. Through that door, that is a G section. And that was our old age home. Most of our fathers were staying in that section, and majority of them serving life imprisonment here on the island. So please.
Sure. Robben Island. Richard Robben Island. I'm not sure. Probably in another 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
I think we're going there. Marayo Bambada Sione. And one man. Okay, sure. Yeah, you have a bag of so we can just hit the road after here. Okay, sure. Yeah, Mario Bamber and Rewood is so far as it at the freezer. The organized Ufio Bamber Asione. Nobody could swim out of here. I'm recording everything, then somebody that it and Chipezo edit. Yeah. I had to ask it because I think it's an urban legend. Inye ufinyi?
How many people can this prison take? How many people? How many people will the prison take?
The numbers will fluctuate from time to time. Like when the generation of 1976 uprisings came over here, there were like 1,300 prisoners. When I was working in that kitchen, that is from 1988 up until 1991, we were preparing food for 950 or so prisoners. So definitely the numbers will be
averaging probably 1,300 people.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in A section. This is where the newly arrived prisoners were staying. So in this section, I won't be talking too much because inside those cells there are stories that were written by ex-political prisoners. One of those is a story about the key. That is the master key that could open all the doors of this prison with the intention to escape. In fact, the mastermind behind the making of that key, it was one of the longest serving prisoners here on the island by the name of Jeff Masimula, who was one of the leaders from the PAC. In fact, what they did, they pressed that master key on a bar soap and they smuggled that bar soap into the workstation just behind the forest where the key was made. And when they tried it for the first time, it could open both doors of the cell that they were locked up in. And when they were trying to lock themselves back so that they could finalize their plan to escape, it couldn't lock up. So the prison warder that was in charge of locking with the master key was punished for something that he never did. So they took that key back to the locksmith where it was modified and it could open and lock the doors. But unfortunately, that was the last thing that they could do with that key. In fact, honestly, even to think about escaping from this prison, it was like committing suicide because the perimeter fencing was patrolled by German Shepherd dogs. And there are 5 towers around this prison which were manned by guards with automatic rifles. with orders to shoot to kill. But if by luck you bypass the two, then the third obstacle will be the sea. And the water around here is very, very cold. And besides, you'll be breakfast, lunch, and supper all in one dish. So the best thing is to keep yourself busy here. Your day will be shorter. The section is all yours.
Mm-hmm. 20-something years. This is where the comrades were at, fighting for your freedom. This is where they were all at. Okay, let's go find more. I think I need to find Mandela.
Vielleicht mit Sicherheit steht das irgendwo vor.
Ja, das denke ich auch. Ich denke mal, dass das vielleicht auch noch sein wird.
Isikhathi eside bakungenjalo so ukuza la bekuthi at least bakazange sibosho into azizinto izinto ngawo got a chance to live again. I'm 25, 26. Yeah, let's go around, good people. Time left behind. Now lunch will be served here. This way, please. This way. Yeah, this way, good people. Ladies and gentlemen, going down to this corridor, you are going to the main entrance to this prison. So on your first day in this prison, you will be escorted from the harbor by as many prison warders with your legs tied with those leg irons, your hands tied behind your back, and you will be walked up from the harbor up until the main door. And the prison warder in front of the group will be knocking at the door saying, "Dankie hek," that is to say, "Thank you, gate," and that door will be opened from the inside. Then you'll all find in there in front of the reception, where you are going to be stripped naked and searched. Naked as you were, you'll be entering the reception to receive your new prison clothes, and it's where you are going to be issued with your new prison card. Then you'll be escorted to A section for that 3 or 6 months. So please. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a B section. This is where our leaders were confined. But this section, at one stage, it was the only section in this prison that didn't have running water. They were using bucket system in this section. So every day at 7 in the morning, when all the doors of this prison would be opened, they will be escorted out of here into the section next door, that is C section, for them to empty those buckets, clean them, and they'll have a shower themselves. From that, they'll be escorted back in here. That door always locked. From that grapevine right up to the corner, that was Nelson Mandela's garden. He planted his vegetables in that garden. And that garden was also used as a hiding place for their illegal stuff in this section. Like one of the things that were hidden right at the corner, it was part of the manuscript of the book called The Long Walk to Freedom, which was written by Nelson Mandela while he was here. At that time, this wall was not here, it was only a fence here. And when this wall was being built in 1978, those manuscripts at the corner were found by the authorities, and they were taken away to the census office. And that cost Nelson Mandela 4 years of his study time here in this prison because of those manuscripts. But fortunately, the rest of the manuscripts were already smuggled out of this prison by Mac Maharaj, who was released from this prison in 1976. So when he left the country to join the ANC in London, he smuggled those manuscripts with him, and that's where the book was written and distributed all over the world long before the release of Nelson Mandela. Then coming to these two photos were taken in here in 1966 during the visit from the international press. And that first one, that short man with glasses, that is Walter Sisulu. He's with his friend and confidant, President Nelson Mandela. And those clothes that they were wearing on that day, they were not prison clothes. Those clothes were given to them early that morning, maybe to give a picture that they were taken good care of. After the photo was taken, those clothes were taken back and they were given back their prison clothes. And this one, these are prisoners who were staying in this section doing what? They were crushing stones. These stones that built this prison. And these stones comes from a quarry on the southwest of the island. And after crushing those stones, there was nothing to be done with the product. Hence they decided to build this tennis court for themselves. And if you can look closer at this photo, you will notice that there are those prisoners with long pants and shoes, and there are those with shorts and barefoot. Those with shorts and barefoot are the African prisoners. Those with long pants and shoes are the Coloureds in India. And there is a short story about this tennis court. It ended up being a post office. This is where our leaders were sending messages, especially for the newly arrived prisoners in A section. In fact, they had that special tennis ball. That tennis ball, you can open it and you can close it. So they'll write their message, put it in there, close the ball, and they'll play the ball over the wall into the courtyard in A section. Those in A section will pick up the ball, open it, read what's in there, and they'll write their response, then they'll play the ball back into this court. And Nelson Mandela stayed 18 years in this prison. After 18 years, that was in 1982, they were transferred together with his co-accused in the Rivonia tribe, except Elias Mutsoaledi, Govan Mbeki, and Wilton Mkwai, who were left behind. The others spent 7 years in Baltimore prison. After 7 years, Nelson Mandela was transferred alone to Victor Verster in Paarl, where he spent another 2 years until his release from prison in February of 1990. From here, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be going inside the cells to see Nelson Mandela's cell. His cell is the fourth door on your right-hand side, is the one with a bucket, a chair, dish, and a cup, his 2 mats and blankets. So, ladies and gentlemen, this will be your last stop of your prison tour. Thank you very much for visiting us here on the island.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Nelson Mandela. Yeah, this will be Nelson Mandela's. After taking photos, you follow me down the corridor. And don't forget, the bus will be waiting for you outside for the next part of your tour. Okay.
So now we're out, we are going into the bus. In the bus, the Mandela there is also telling us the history that I told you of the grapes and the epileptic moments and whatever. I did ask a few questions, and some of the stories do get political, but I don't want to put a lot of them in there. I want to focus on the bottom line, right? Which is the video you're about to see now.
So what I'm trying to share is how far back the island had already been used as a prison. Now, as you walked up to the prison, you'd have seen a green dome structure. So I'm sure some of you might have thought a mosque. But that is a burial site of a holy Muslim man. Now, the religion of Islam is brought here to the Cape by the Dutch East Indian Company in the 1700s when they tried to safeguard a sea route to the East Indies, and they took over Java. And the resistance they met there, political exiles and prisoners are brought here. And again, we see a prison. Even though we jump 100 years, we can jump another 100 years to the 1800s. And the British has taken control. And when they took over, they fought the indigenous tribes, and the chiefs of these tribes became prisoners on Robben Island, like Makana and Langalibalele, Siolo, and many, many others. But the history of Robben Island takes a slight detour after 1850. And that detour, the fears and the unknowns within the medical fraternity. So let me talk about chronically ill and people with disabilities. The unknowns around that led to islands becoming hospitals, dumping grounds. At one stage, an epileptic sufferer, someone getting the epileptic fit, was seen as a lunatic possessed by demons. and they were banished here. We are actually standing on a graveyard as we speak. And this graveyard is where more than 1,200 lepers were buried. Because at one stage, if you saw a rash, the doctor couldn't diagnose what you had. They called you a leper. You are sent to a leper colony like Robben Island. And they thought that if every single leper dies out within this island, the cure to leprosy is found. And that explains the graveyard that some of you might have seen just further down the road. And we'll have a closer look at that graveyard in a moment. So, if all goes according to plan, you should be on a boat at 4. Yes, sir.
What's the name of the guy who escaped?
Ochumatu.
Ochumatu, what year?
1659. You know what is interesting? This auntie over here, she's from, sorry, she's now looking at the phone now.
Yeah.
You're from South Africa, aren't you?
Yes.
Born and bred over here. And she's going to tell you she's never heard the name Ochumatu before. Eh?
But how did he swim? Or did he built
a boat.
He built a boat, oh, okay. Oh.
But you know what is interesting, Maria? Is that she will know the name Heri die Strandloper. Am I right? Yeah. You've heard that name before. And yet it's the same person.
How come?
We only know him as a name that Jan van Riebeeck gave him. The unknowns of our history, which I'm trying to share with you as well. So yeah, this is about 1,200 graves in this area where people who had leprosy or they thought had leprosy was buried. Did you know what is interesting is that they separated male from female? The fear of children being born and the disease could continue, so they had a female colony and a male colony. There's a German couple buried over here. The fairness separated on arrival, female colony for her, male colony for him. 5 years later, they ended up in one grave. He dies without knowing of her husband's death. She passes away the following day. So they're buried in one grave. To think that he was 75 years old, she was 72 years old, kept apart for 5 years because they feared they might bear children. I mean, this was a stigma of leprosy once upon a time. Now, leprosy by the mid-1920s is treatable. It's no longer as contagious as it was perceived. And throughout the world, leper colonies closed down. And every single building used by a leper would have been burned down, demolished, with exception to one, a church. We will see that a bit later.
Is it equivalent to epilepsy?
Sorry?
Is it equivalent to epilepsy?
Epilepsy would have been seen as someone that is possessed by demons. So you were seen as a crazy person possessed by a demon, getting the epileptic fit. By the way, talking about the fears of the unknowns, COVID-19, 2020, and there was a recommendation made in Parliament that all COVID patients be sent to Robben Island.
Fuck.
Not kidding. I'm not kidding. That was a serious recommendation made in Parliament that they turned Robben Island into a COVID hospital.
You. By force.
South Africans, take a wild guess who was that political party that made that recommendation.
No comment.
No comment. Yeah. Perfect party.
Which one?
Which one?
Really? Yes. Off camera.
Okay.
You had the opportunity, eh?
Nice one. I'll edit it out.
So I've got people here from Germany. I know I've got a lot of South Africans on board, a few. Any other nationality?
American.
US?
Yeah.
US as well? No, is that it?
Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Kenyan.
Kenya?
Costa.
Venda.
Apparently. And that person must be from Joburg as well.
Yes. Yeah, yes.
No. I said all good people go to heaven, they just go to Joburg. Yeah.
Oh. I'll relocate here.
You know what's interesting? And please, South Africans, don't be shy. And Germany, US, Kenya, and Portugal. You know what's interesting about perception? Is that South Africa had 4 racial classifications: white, colored, Indian, and black. So racially, you were classified into one of the 4 under the apartheid system. But the interesting thing is, South Africans, and please, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but there's a perception. My mother is white, my dad is white, I'm white. My mom is black, my dad is black, I'm black. Mom colored, dad colored, I'm colored, isn't it? And that is a perception. And the interesting thing about that is that you were not racially classified legally at birth. You were not racially classified based on mother or father. At the age of 16, you applied for your identification document, and that is when they legally racially classified you into one of four. So what happens to that too dark to be colored person, the too light to be black person, the in-betweener? They test you. They put a pencil into your hair. You shake your head, and if that pencil slips out colored, if it stays in, you are black. It is called the pencil test. Now Germany, US, and so on, my South African friends are laughing because this is new to them. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
If I had no hair.
Pardon?
They measure the thickness of your upper lip or the width of your nostril. The thicker the upper lip, the wider the nostril, the blacker you are. Again, what I'm bringing across is the unknowns of our own history. So they classified you black. They called you Bantu.
Yeah.
And you are governed by a law that restricts your movement. So this law told you as the black person where to stay, work, areas you are allowed to enter or not, and the times you are allowed to enter these areas. So at any point, at any time, you contravene the document, you could end up in prison, anything between 3 to 6 months without a trial. Now the police had the authority to arrest and sentence to jail. 1959, a new political party is formed. This was called the Pan-Africanist Congress. The co-founder member was a man by the name of Robert Mangaliso Sebukwe. He becomes a leader of one of the most powerful movements. He had given up his profession as a professor in African languages. And in 1959, he goes on a defiance campaign asking people to defy the law, to leave their document at home, to go to the nearest police station to hand himself in. And the idea was to see if South Africa has enough prison space to house everyone if they all contravene the law on one day and at the same time. And this is what they did on the 21st of March 1960. And in front of one police station in the township of Sharpeville, the police shot and killed 69 people. This day is better known as the day of the Sharpeville massacre. I think that might ring a bell to some.
Yeah.
Robert Sebukwe is arrested in Orlando West, charged with incitement, found guilty, sentenced to 3 years, served it out in Johannesburg, 1963. He's about to complete the 3-year prison sentence given to him by a court of law. But South Africa is now in turmoil. The fight for freedom had escalated. Political movements were banned. Robben Island had become the jail we know it today. And the leader of the most powerful movement of the time is about to be released from prison. The apartheid government sits down, discusses one man, passes the Sebukwe clause. And this clause, they could re-arrest Robert Sebukwe and place him under house arrest. They could confine him to an area where no one is allowed to talk to him and is allowed to talk to no one. So the idea now was to isolate one man from the rest of the world, no one to talk to besides himself. And they brought him to Robben Island, to their house over there. He was confined to an area you find fenced in. No one was allowed to talk to him. He was allowed to talk to no one. And they said isolation for 1 year. Now the interesting thing about this period is that the apartheid government regards him and recognizes him as the only political prisoner in South Africa. And for that, you could get up, go to bed when you wanted to, wear his own clothes. He was allowed books, newspapers, a radio to listen to, but no one to talk to besides himself. And 1 year ends up to be 6 years.
Shit.
He's diagnosed with lung cancer. They fear he might die here. And in 1969, they remove him from Robben Island and they take him to the township of Galeshewe in Kimberley, about 12 hours north of Cape Town by car. and is placed under house arrest once again. This time, he lives in the community. Wife, kids moved and stayed with him in one house. He's even allowed to talk to the people of that town. But they told him talk to 3 people or more at the same time is an illegal gathering. Which is odd if you have a wife and 4 kids. He died in 1978 at the age of 54. So let me quickly recap. Regarded as the only political prisoner by the apartheid government, a clause is passed not to govern or rule the country, but to govern and rule just him. And the sad part, South Africans, let us be honest, we don't know the name. Probably never heard that name. And if we did, you'll probably tell me, oh, now I know why at Wits University there's a building named after him, or a road named after him in Cape Town. He had become a forgotten name, forgotten hero of his country. But for one moment, try to imagine 6 years, no one to talk to besides yourself. Mentally, vocally, it affected him. Now, I apologize if you find I took a very long road to get to that building. But a little bit of background, I think, helps to put it into context. But today, you also find these grid iron gate structures on the right of their house. Long after Robert Sobukwe was taken off the island, Rottweilers, German Shepherd, police-type dogs was brought in to help with security. They had kennels built for these dogs. And that is the grid iron structures that you see here. Question?
Was the current president ever here?
Sorry?
The current president, was he ever here?
No. I can probably explain that if you'd like me to. In a moment I will. And then, lady over there, you said a question?
Yes, has Mandela ever been back? Since
I met him a few times, ma'am.
Has he been back here?
On the island.
On the island.
I met him a few times on the island. I can check three times that he was here. In 1997, we had a dinner party on the island, and he was the guest speaker. And I met him that day. I also met him on the 24th of September 1997. It was the official opening of Robben Island, even though we operated from the 1st of January 1997. On Heritage Day, on the 24th of September, you officially opened the museum. And then not long, a few years later, with the Special Olympics, the Special Olympic flame came. That's right. So he was here to light the flame in his cell. That is 3, and there were a few more other occasions that he was here with Bill Clinton as President of the United States. He was also here, but that was a close sort of visit that not many got to interact with Mr. Mandela. So yeah, and then it was maybe 1 or 2 other occasions that he was here. You opened up the building at the V&A waterfront as well. But physically on Robben Island, about 4 occasions that I know of.
Back to her, Cyril
Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
And Zuma.
Zuma? Well, Zuma was here. Jacob Zuma was on Robben Island. He was a prisoner on the island.
What's his story?
We need a day or 2 for that story.
Cyril.
There's a little steenbok running up over there. One of the smallest antelopes in Africa. Now, maybe to talk about Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
Now, you must... Same will apply to someone like... Das is Kalkstein Gruber. But just to answer the question, and before I talk about this particular space, there was also Thabo Mbeki, also president. He was also not the prisoner on Robben Island. Now, the African National Congress had a plan in place on how they would use certain people. Like, for example, Thabo Mbeki was in England. And that is where he did a lot of preparation work with Oliver Tambo. And there were many others like that went into exile in preparing for that day of freedom, for that moment of freedom. That was all about preparation. So you might have found that Cyril Ramaphosa was one of them that was in exile, based on this, on how the ANC would prepare for that day of freedom and so on. So added to that, now you must, when I looked at Robben Island the first time I came here as an employee, I actually thought Robben Island was like Prison Break. that movie. Orange is the New Black. So this is what I'm thinking about when I talk about the jail. But I find former prisoners, I find former prison guards and their colleagues, their neighbors. And I started to understand through the stories of the former prisoners and the wardens that they were always preparing themselves for freedom, that they were never waiting for freedom to come. Now, Robben Island, as you'd have heard from the jail story, was only a jail for males of color. There were no females, there were no white prisoners over here. They kept all the leaders together. And I'm sure my colleague talked about hard labor. The prison that was built, the building with the arch, the visitor center was built, the roads were built. But the one thing that also came out from that story is that the leaders was kept separate, that they never wanted the leaders to influence the other prisoners. So this is where the leaders would have worked. With shovels and pickaxes, they were excavating limestone, and the limestone that they took out was used by the other prisoners to build the roads that we are driving on. But when we look at Robben Island, or when I looked at Robben Island in later years, it was about the apartheid government realizing that the economy was being crippled by sanctions, realizing that they needed to talk, realizing that they had to negotiate. But the political movements would say to them, release all political activists first, and then we will talk. Reluctantly, they do that, they give in, and October 1989, the Rivonia Trialist is released. 1990, the unbanning of political movements, the release of Nelson Mandela, and there's an agreement that by the end of April 1991, there'll be no more political activists within prisons. On the 27th of April 1991, the last batch of political activists is taken off Robben Island. 3rd December, the start of negotiations that led to the elections, led to Nelson Mandela becoming president, a new constitution, and apartheid comes to an end. And let me throw in one more thing. We win the Rugby World Cup. The world said a miracle. The apartheid government says, these guys came out of prison, goes into the negotiation process, far more prepared than what we thought they would be. And I listened to this and I thought to myself, surprised? Why? You threw all political activists into one jail. You threw cultures, languages, religions, different political movements together. You keep all the masterminds in one section of the prison. And you're surprised that they're ready to talk. So what did you think they were talking about? And when I bring people to a space like the hard labor quarry, it's not about the cave, it was a toilet. It's not about the physical hard labor that took place over here, but how they prepared themselves for freedom. How they turned the disadvantage of prison into their own advantage. We have the most progressive constitution in the world. Should we maybe say, welcome to the first democratic parliament, and not Robben Island the prison. But freedom was a dream they talked about, they planned for. For so many of them, freedom was simply a dream. It was never going to happen in a lifetime. 1994 happened. Apartheid came to an end. And imagine the emotion of the 11th of Feb, 1990, when 1,200 former prisoners reunites. And they stood on Robben Island once again. This time, they were members of parliament, they were leaders in civil society. That day, Mr. Mandela stood here as President of South Africa. I don't think I can put emotions into words. But they concluded, and as they left, they had spotted Mr. Mandela had picked up a stone. And with that stone in hand, he had walked to the entrance and he laid it down. And all the others simply followed. And that is that pile of stones and heap of stones that you see there, which today is a symbol, a monument of the triumph of the human spirit of adversity. The triumph of the human spirit over all odds. Now Germany, Kenya, Portugal, US, there's something about my South African friends, and they're going to look at me confused once again. That in 2018, when we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the life of Nelson Mandela, you know, on the back of the 10 rand, that rhino, behind the 20 rand, the elephant and the lion, and that money, or that animals disappeared from the back of our money, and it was replaced by the story of Nelson Mandela. And on the 10 rand note, it was where he was born. Mvezo, the 20 Rand note is his next stage of his life, going to Soweto and living in Vilakazi Street, and that house is there. He got captured in Howick, and the capture site is on the 50 Rand note. He was imprisoned on Robben Island, and the limestone quarry, the pile of stones, is on the 100 Rand note. And on the 200 Rand note is him becoming president. That statue in Pretoria, that big statue in front of the Union buildings where he was inaugurated as president of South Africa, is on the 200 Rand note. I don't know if you saw that before.
It never circulated.
No. You see, when you have a lot of money, you don't look at it, you just give it out. Thanks, if you turn it around, there's a face of Mr. Mandela on the one side, and on the other side is a lion. Yeah, that's the old one. You must tell your dad, if he has got more money with animals on, you must give it to Koos. You must get rid of the old money. This is a 200 Rand note with a newer one. And if I turn it around, you actually see Mr. Mandela and the statue that I talked about. I think if you have another one, promise there might be the leopard on there. If I'm correct, can I? You know, taking out the white wallet and giving it away.
It's looking for this one.
And to
here's the leopard. Oh,
that's the difference. And if you read closely on the side over here, it reads centenary notes. It came out in 2018, celebrating the 100th anniversary. So that's the difference between the two. The front is exactly the same. This watch, I'm giving him 3 back. Now, for many, it is odd to find a church a distance away from the actual town. And the Church of the Good Shepherd was built within the leper colony. And if you remember earlier, I told you, once the lepers was taken off, they burned down, demolished the buildings. They couldn't touch the church because it's privately owned. So Reverend William Watkins, he was a missionary, wanted a place of worship, and it's given permission to buy a piece of land, and on this piece of land, the Church of the Good Shepherd is built. So 2 things about the church: the only privately owned structure on Robben Island, and the only leper building left on the island. That makes it unique. I know the name Sir Herbert Baker might ring a bell. Well-known architect. He also designed the church here. So the town is next. Dumasani, that took you through the prison, works here, he lives here. It is the employees of the museum that live on Robben Island. And there's about 200 people that live here, but what you will also find is that the architecture of the town talks about the military base. So Second World War, as the danger of the Suez Canal was around, many of the Allied boats used Capetown Harbour as a replenishing station. And as many Allied boats came past down the west coast of Africa, rounding the Cape, and the fear of an attack by the enemy, and in this case it would have been Germany, they turned Robben Island into a first line of defense. So the harbour would have been built, allowing bigger boats to dock here. A lot of building supplies came in. The town was developed to what you're going to see. In the center of the road, painted in white, you'd have seen it in prison. These big shells are from the 9.2-inch barrel guns that had a shooting distance of over 30 kilometers. But never ever was the guns needed. Not a single shot was fired in anger. There was an airfield laid out. Dakotans could take off and land here. There are underground bomb shelters, plotting rooms. But like I said, it was never really put to the test because the enemy was never close. But Robben Island as a museum versus Robben Island, the prison, the military base. Boats between Cape Town and the V&A waterfront every single day now. Back then, once, twice a week. The V&A waterfront was a harbour. It's a shopping mall today. So as the museum developed, things that used to be necessities of a year was no longer necessity. The bank closed down. The post office closed down. The school closed down. But it's like any other town. There we have the hospital to your right hand side, which it's a hospital where you're not going to do open heart surgery, but it's more of a space to stabilize the patient and obviously get you back to Cape Town. But like I mentioned, the authority lived here. The house of the medical superintendent is the building to my left. Why I touch on this little building is because beneath the house there is this dark dungeon type room. So back in the 1800s, the epileptic sufferer was shackled down beneath that house as a form of rehabilitation. One of the oldest standing buildings on the island is the Garrison Church, which is the building coming up to your right. It still serves the community today. This is where the weddings takes place on Valentine's Day. Down the road, the asylums of the 1800s, and Lowback Strand across the bay. Now, one of the common questions that people ask, do people swim from Robben Island? Well, H.C. Hooper, 1905, from England, first guy to record a successful swim, took 6 hours 58 minutes to swim 3 miles, 7 kilometers. Natalie du Toit, a South African Paralympian, lost the left leg from the knee down. She did it in 1 hour 32 minutes. Gabriella, at the age of 13, became the youngest female to swim from Robben Island in 3 hours 44 minutes. So what I'm trying to share with you is at 4 o'clock is the last boat leaving Robben Island. I will get you on the harbour in time for you to get your boat. If by some miracle you miss the boat,
I'm gonna swim.
Anybody can book to have a wedding.
Anyone can get married on that church on Valentine's Day, yes.
Only on Valentine's.
Only on Valentine's Day.
How much cost it?
How much?
How much is it?
Look, it's going to vary from year to year, but it's not going to. It's probably going to cost you about 2,000 rand in total.
Whoa.
Yeah.
If I want to be a pastor.
We organize a pastor, we organize your certificate, we organize, we'll even organize a wife for you. If she is not interested. This used to be the Robben Island Primary School, grade 1 to grade 7. It was a school that started during the prison period and continued right up until 2010. Now, what happened was, with the museum opening up, you know, kids that was here attended school, but it wasn't long. They went to high school, secondary education. And yeah, so eventually with very little kids, there was no need for the school, and the school closed down. It was sad to see the school close.
You need some shotguns on.
And now it's a school for birds. The old English Commissioner's house, our little conference facility now. Yeah, that is before the harbour was built. Boats would have docked over there. And as you can see, big boats can never dock there, and that's why the harbour became a necessity. But yeah, this is the English Commissioner's house, our little conference facility. You might look at it and think, Kentucky Fried Chicken, not it. One of the most amazing views of Cape Town. Have a look in front of you. And this is where we'll take a little break. No, so it's not me. So here's a little interesting thing to think about. Table Mountain over there falls within the Cape Throttle Kingdom. And the Cape Throttle Kingdom is a World Heritage Site. Robben Island is a World Heritage Site. How many places in the world can you be on a World Heritage Site and see another? The only one.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So Alpha 1 is the peak roof structure. That is where you can also get your cup of coffee or bottle of water.
Oh, a quick one. The flat earthers. We're going to zoom it. Let's see if the world is flat. Tell me if you see a curvature. This is the part where you can see it. If it's flat, why don't I see the next continent straight? Hey, guys.
That's a video, right? Ah, okay, cause just reset it because you said on video.
done with the Robben Island excursion or the trip. About to go back into that boat. Yo, the waves. Thank you for watching this episode of NippyCast, the Cape Town edition / Robben Island. Alright, shosho.
Raymond Washaba, Walter Sizulu, Elias Matsualedi, Wilton Mkwai, Ahmed Kathrada, and Ask Captain Peta were to be released as soon as the necessary formalities could be dealt with.
We are happy to be with you, with our families, our friends and comrades, and the people generally, after 26 years behind bars. But we must say that there can be no real joy about our release when we now think of the comrades we have left behind, especially our comrade Nelson Mandela.
Hey, that was it. Hi.
Why you sacrificing with basis? I'm gonna kill this one.
My erectile is not dysfunctional.
Let's use our president, for example.
Are you over 10,000 kilometers away from South Africa?
Conspiracy theorists.
I can open the door for you to join the Illuminati.
Good evening, everyone.
NippyCast.